Okay, hi. My name is Michael. I'm from CDN77 and I would like to tell you something about Talos Linux. What is it and why should you use it? Just a little bit of context. CDN77 operates over 35,000 servers over 100 locations. Majority is not Kubernetes currently. And we have some Talos Kubernetes clusters. Currently we are talking about 3,500 AMD Epic Genoa cores with more than 6 terabytes of RAM and terabits per second of network throughput per cluster. And funnily enough, I don't do Kubernetes at CDN77. I do something completely different. But I personally liked I have personal side projects on which I also use Talos. And we independently, in my personal time and my colleagues in company, both agreed that Talos Linux is one of the great things how to run Kubernetes. This is not to brag about scale. This is more for context that we use Talos from small personal single node projects up to pretty large clusters, and we have mostly great things to say about it in all of those contexts. But let's start in the beginning. Kubernetes. I think it's great. Everyone probably here hopefully loves it or or think it's great. It solves a lot of problems like scaling, networking, clustering. You all know that. My favorite part is that it's mostly declarative and gives us this immutable workload environments. So okay, sorry. No down. But I don't want to talk about Kubernetes specifically. Let's agree we want Kubernetes. Okay, so if you heard about Kubernetes the first time or you just Google around, the first thing you will find is that to get Kubernetes, you should get one of these managed offerings from the big clouds, or today even smaller clouds. But when I heard about Kubernetes, one of the promises is it's lock-in free. I don't have to be locked into one of the big clouds, but this seems I have to be locked in one of those big clouds. Can I get something more lock-in free? Or I know this is kind of heresy saying this on cloud native meetup, but something cloud free? Just, or at least being something that can be brought out of the cloud when needed, because cloud has kind of not many problems, but there are problems with cloud. I would like some way to run Kubernetes outside of those lock-ins. So okay, let's get a generic VM or some bare metal server and try to install Kubernetes. When you open the documentation on official Kubernetes documentation, you will find this page about kubeadm, which is supposedly the easy way to set up Kubernetes. This is the easy way. And when you start reading the page, you will find a lot of things you have to do to set up it. It even skips about you have to have a Linux, and then you have to check and install a lot of things, run a lot of commands. And this is not what I was promised from Kubernetes. I want something that's a kettle, not a pet. I want something that's in Git, that's versionable, that's infrastructure as a code. This is not it. And okay, when you search around, you will find other alternatives like kubespray, which is most like Ansible plus kubefadaba, and also K3s, Rancher, K0s. It's all of kind of the same. It's still manage your Linux hosts. It's more opinionated. I think it's more wrong. This is not what I want. I would like something that's close to manage Kubernetes, but outside of the big clouds, outside of the big management. Why can't I do that? I want something that has safe and painless upgrades, because my biggest gripe with all those systems over the years I run them was that I always do something a little bit non-standard and the upgrades completely break down. I have to do a lot of manual steps to get out of it. So I want something immutable, declarative, something where all this can be done safely. And I don't want to use Ansible. Don't get me wrong. Ansible has a lot of No, no, it has lots of. I know how to run, how to do Ansible and manage Linux servers. I just don't wanna, after all these years. Couldn't there be an Kubernetes-oriented Linux distribution, a full distribution that does all this stuff, just like I want to install it and run Kubernetes and don't worry about the underlying Linux, like a managed Kubernetes. Well, enter Talos Linux. It's a Linux distribution and Kubernetes distribution. It's a Linux distribution specifically for Kubernetes. It's very minimal and the root file system is immutable. It's not based on some Ubuntu and Debian. It's Linux kernel and just a couple of binaries. It doesn't even have SSH. You cannot log in into the server. It just provides a simple API over which you can configure the server and don't touch it. And it can run in all bare metal and VMs and cloud and all manner of heterogeneous environments. So let's try to install it. How do we do it if we don't have SSH? First, we will need to generate a Talos config. This is a little bit weird, but we will go through it. The first step is generate a Talos config and then set up a machine and apply the config to it. Let's walk through all the steps. First, you will need to get Talos control, Talos CTL, which is another binary. I know everyone has a lot of binaries on their computers. This is another one, but it greatly simplifies the operations of the cluster. So get a binary. Then you have to generate secrets. You don't have to worry much about this file. It just generates the seeds and generates all the required secrets for the whole cluster, and this is the only file you need to keep secure. And don't present it anywhere. Yeah. I don't recommend doing this. Then you take the secrets file. I don't know how it's visible. It's visible. You just need to provide cluster name and Kubernetes API endpoint, and you can generate config. This is all you need for a basic happy path config. It will generate a couple of files for you. That is Talos config and Vorke control plane machine configs. Talos config is equivalent to kube config. It's just a config with basic auth for the Talos API. You don't have to worry about this file mostly at all. And then you have the machine config. This is one fairly large YAML files. Who doesn't like large YAML files? But as you know, by default, it's mostly commented out. It has a lot of examples, and you don't have to worry about it. Not at the first step. It has fairly sane defaults. You can can start just using that. It mostly works. Yeah, but let's move on. You have this machine config. You get an ISO. You get that from release pages or from download page, and you boot it like you would any other ISO for installation. This will boot a minimal system into DRM and just expose API. It won't do anything with the machine yet. Then you need to take your config and apply it to this in RAM booted minimal system. This will take the system, install it on the drive, do all the things that are set in the machine config that should be done, which by default is for control plane, run all control plane static pods, run kubelet. For worker, it's just run kubelet and join the Kubernetes cluster. This will join the Kubernetes cluster and do all this other stuff for you. You may notice that for the first apply config, I am passing the insecure flag because as we booted the machine, it doesn't know anything. It doesn't have any certificates. It doesn't have any auth. So please don't do this in public internet on public IPs. Don't ask. You just have to believe that those IPs are the correct IPs of the machines you booted, and you send the config there. Then you will need to have set up Talos config. As I said, it's the same thing as kube config. You just need to tell Talos CTL where to find it. It has some default paths, but I try to do it explicitly here. And then you call on bootstrap on one node. The bootstrap is what actually sets up Kubernetes. You call it once per cluster, and then you can start using Kubernetes. I have screen recording about how this can work. I don't know how visible will it be. I didn't want to do a live demo. Live demo got not to be tempted. And I know it's a little bit fast. I think we can, after the presentation, sit together and go through the steps in more detail if you are interested. But I now called Bootstrap, and I called Talos dashboard. It has this inbuilt terminal-based UI dashboard that shows you the status of the nodes. And currently, the Kubernetes is bootstrapping. It was just one comment, and now you wait. The Kubernetes components, which are visible here, will one by one start up and get healthy. Then the whole node will be proposed as ready, and we can start using Kubernetes. I will scrap a little bit. All the components are healthy. Now we need to wait until the node is ready. We have ready the control plane node, and we can start using Kubernetes. Okay, one more step. We need to get a kube config from Talos. Talos will derivate this from the machine config, these secrets. It can generate the basic admin kube config for you. Then that's on the happy path everything. You can fairly easily, with same defaults, get a connected Kubernetes cluster with basic services, and you can start using Kubernetes. Don't worry about the underlying system. Okay, but what if you need to worry about the underlying system? What if you need to change something on this immutable system? Oh, all was great till now, and now I have immutable system, and I want to, let's say, add an NVIDIA drivers, because everybody needs AI now and needs NVIDIA drivers. How do you customize this immutable image? You don't have to worry. All these customization can be done on a running cluster. They are just a little bit weird, because you cannot just SSH into the nodes and call apt-get NVIDIA and all this stuff. You have to do it the Talos way. And the Talos way is to use system extensions, which are like root file system overlays, over which you can add to anything to the root file system or customize the kernel. There's a public repository of pre-built, ready-to-be-used extensions, where the most common drivers like NVIDIA and some VM guest agents, or even different container runtimes are available, or you can look into this repository and create your own. One thing I skipped over a little bit are images. We just got an ISO from somewhere and installed it, but Talos does this a little bit specific thing, that it has two kinds of images: initial boot image and installer image. Initial boot image is the ISO we booted into RAM. It doesn't do much. It just exposes API and is there only to expose API and write to disk. You usually don't have to customize it. The only requirements for it is working networking, which can be challenging, and working disks, just so it can over the network set up the disks. Not only can it expose API, there's also many ways, like something like cloud init, or providing the machine config on drive, where you can auto provision the image, and it can install and join the cluster completely automatically, just by providing by some side channel the machine config we generated earlier. And then you have installer images. This is the image that actually runs the system and is copied or unwrapped to the disk. Those are OCI image formats stored on OCI image registries, and they are downloaded by default. They are downloaded during the initial apply config step onto the drive, and those may need to be changed if you need the NVIDIA drivers for the during the runtime, or anything specific during the runtimes. This is the image you most probably want to change. Changing and building images is always kind of painful with all Linux distributions. Talos has answer for doing the basic stuff easily. They have so-called image factory. That's a web service. You can run your own, or there is a default hosted factory Talos dev service that can customize the basic customizations from the public extensions for you. Let's do a quick demo. I don't know how much. Is it visible? Let's say we have bare metal machine, because that's what we do. Let's pick Talos Linux version. We are running on AMD64, and we need the systems extension I was talking about. So let's say we want to install NVIDIA drivers, and I can't NVIDIA. Okay, I want NVIDIA Container Toolkit, LTS version, and kernel mode, the non-free one. There's quite an amount of pre-built extensions. That's the one from the GitHub repo I was mentioning earlier. If you want to have custom system extension, you cannot use the pre-hosted factory.talos dev. You will have to go to the more complicated routes of building it yourself locally. But if you want the basic drivers, we have them. We picked NVIDIA, and we can go next. We can also specify custom kernel commands. These are only for the initial boot image and are helpful if you want to have a static IP config, or you want to provide a machine config over some HTTP. They have a lot of custom kernel commands for the provisioning. After that, you will get just an ISO link or OCI image name. This generates both the initial boot image, same as installer image. You can use the same image for both, or you can customize to have some basic small initial boot image that just has drivers you need during the initial boot, and then have larger images like for your workers with, let's say, the NVIDIAs. But let's get back to our cluster. We have running cluster, and we want to add this new image to our already existing cluster. We will take this OCI image name, and we will call Talos control upgrade. This is used both for upgrading Talos versions, as well as any changes to the installer image. It is mostly automatic. It will automatically cordon, drain, and shut down your node. And it also has implemented automatic rollback. It will actually create a new partition, dump the new image there, tries to boot into it. If it successfully boots into it, it will permanently change the boot order. If it fails the boot, it will reboot and boot into the old partition. So it's mostly safe. Use on your discretion. The thing we are doing here, which is changing, just adding NVIDIA drivers, this would be called a same version upgrade, because we are not actually upgrading Talos, we are just changing the image. Again, I have screen recording of the update. It takes several minutes. This is very sped up. I just wanted to demonstrate that you call one command, it does everything for you most of the time. Everything I say today has very much asterisks. Asterisk. This symbol.
Don't worry about it.
If you are upgrading Talos this way, read the upgrade notes. No, read the upgrade notes.
What broke?
Nothing broke. Everything passed. We have installed the system. This is demonstrating on a clean cluster. Of course, if you have some service that takes a long time to drain the nodes, this will take a long time. It requires a node restart. The root file system is immutable. This is the price you pay. If you want to customize something, you have to do a restart. But in Kubernetes cluster, it should be fairly easy. You just cordon drain the node and restart it. Okay, we upgraded Talos. What about upgrading Kubernetes itself? That's by default also fairly easy. That's automatically run across all of your nodes in the cluster, and it's non-disruptive to cluster workloads. You can do it on a running cluster without any problems. Again, it takes several minutes. It runs pre-flight checks and then do the update over all the nodes. From our experience and experience of our colleagues, both Talos upgrades and Kubernetes upgrades actually work without the problems. Of course, if you have some incompatibility in the API, you need to, pre-flight checks will fail, you need to fix them. There's no way around that, but then the upgrade just works. With one small asterisk, if you are using custom or more complicated networking, like custom CNIs, you need to hook into this system to not break everything. But if you are using the default Talos, it works perfectly every time. I just wanted to note that there's specific Talos versions only support specific Kubernetes versions. Usually when new Kubernetes versions comes out, in maximum couple of days, new Talos versions comes out. You can install it, upgrade it, and start using it. We discussed how to change the file system, but what if you want to change something in the machine config that we glossed over? Again, you can do it not only for new systems, you can do it on running clusters, and you can do it ad hoc interactively using command talos control edit machine config and node name. I would strongly recommend not doing that. Try to do even with Talos infrastructure as a code, and don't do ad hoc edits, and don't even edit the full generated file. Try to use patches and generate the files on the fly as you need them. For example, if we wanted to pass extra arguments to etcd to expose metrics which are not exposed by default, we would create a new patch. Let's call it etc monitoring YAML. We need to write this command, and then we would just run talos control gen config. Only now with config patch control plane, this is the only line that change. Given that it's at CD, we can change only the control planes. This will regenerate the files we generated before, and we again just call apply config. As we would call for a new server that would be then joining the cluster, we can call it for existing nodes in existing clusters. It will apply them. It mostly is smart enough to tell you if reboot is required or can be applied without reboot. This change is applicable before reboot, so it will just prompt you applied configuration without a reboot, and it will update the etcd static pods and apply this new line. So even changing configs for running clusters isn't very problematic. So even though you have immutable system, even running cluster is very easy with infrastructure as a code to change both the file system, the root file system, and both the machine config. Okay, what about other features? Is Talos truly managed like? Does it offer me the same features as a managed offering from the big clouds would offer? Scaling cluster up and down. This is extremely easy. When you have a running cluster and you want to scale it up, you just add a new node and apply the machine config. Or you can do the auto provisioning, and it will join automatically. This also works for control plane clusters. It will automatically join etcd and do this all stuff for you. Scaling down is easy as well. You just call talos control reset. Just a note, all those talos tutorial commands have an API alternatives. It doesn't do anything else, that just calls API to the cluster. You just call talos control reset, and it will automatically remove the node from talos control from talos cluster for control plane nodes. It will leave etcd completely safely. All this is solved for you. The only thing it doesn't, for some reason, do is touch Kubernetes API, so you will have to remove the node from Kubernetes itself if you don't have some kind of cloud controller. What about networking? This is also a thing that usually big clouds and managed Kubernetes solve for you. By default, it comes with Flannel CNI. You don't have to touch it if you are happy with it. It just works. So the default cluster that it will stand up for you is ready for applications. You don't have to worry about it. If you want to worry about it, you can disable the inbuilt CNI and apply any CNI you like Cilium or something like that. I would warn you that you need to think about the upgrades to not cut yourself out of the networking during the Kubernetes upgrades to have the proper ordering. And it has one special feature, that's kubespan. It has inbuilt mesh WireGuard overlay network. It will automatically, by default, discover nodes across multiple heterogeneous networks and join them to one cluster with overlay networking. This requires a discovery service. This is currently freely hosted on Discovery Talos Dev, and it's enabled by default. Just a heads up, this is one of components that you cannot run yourself without a license. It's proprietary license, it has business source license, and you have to buy license from Sidero, which are the guys behind Talos, if you want to use kubespan without calling home to their discovery service. And what about storage? That's not managed. Talos doesn't help you at all with storage. This is the one thing I think still needs to be solved for on-premise Kubernetes, that it's very hard to solve without big cloud providers, and Talos yet doesn't have any answer for it. Use a Rook or OpenEBS or something like that. But maybe even worse, the disk management in Talos currently is, the state is not very ideal. The disk layout is hard-coded. You cannot do changes to it. It doesn't support Linux RAIDs. It doesn't support any kind of software RAID. If you want to have boot drive in any kind of redundancy, you have to use hardware RAIDs currently. They are working on it. Hopefully in next couple of versions, hopefully in next version this will be fixed. Maybe but this is our biggest gripe with Talos at the moment. If you want to have HA, if you want to have redundancy for the boot drive, you cannot. Please provide at least 5 control plane nodes if you have if you want to have reasonable redundancy.
Do you have to use UEFI? Can you use legacy boot?
Do you have to use or?
UEFI. Can you use legacy boot for Talos or just UEFI?
I think currently yes, and I am.
Latest is UEFI only. Okay.
Yeah, I know they said they will be dropping it. Currently it uses systemd boot and requires UEFI.
Is it possible to just hack it with privileged containers and run something inside the Kubernetes with privileges to modify the file system?
Yes, well, no, not the root one. You have, if we look into this.
No, not the root one, but to manage some storage on different.
Yeah, for non-boot disks, it's possible. It even has modules for ZFS, BTRFS. You can do it for the data disk, not the boot disk. The boot disk are a single point of failures.
You want to answer the question, so please repeat them.
Sorry, I should repeat the question. The question was if I can hack it with privileged containers. You can hack it with privileged containers. It's not needed. You cannot hack the boot. The boot is immutably mounted. Another funny story with disk layout. There's this mferl partition. That's where all the mutable data are stored, including etcd data for control planes and downloaded images. Given that in our company we run it on bare metal, we sometimes do this not so nice thing that we schedule worker pods on control planes. You cannot split up etcd to different node, then download images to different partition currently, then where are the images pulled. So one of our problems we run into was our network is so fast, I know, first world problems, that we IO starve etcd during images download. You need to use very fast NVMEs if you want to schedule worker pods on control planes, because you cannot split the etcd to different partition currently. Hopefully it will be fixed. And with that, I am getting to end of my presentation. there's still a couple of gotchas. It's very actively developed. I know this doesn't sound like a gotcha. It's a great thing that the disk management will probably be fixed. But if you will run Talos, usually there are config changes needed with every version. The Sidero guys are very good about it. The deprecation usually happens over multiple versions, but things are changing. Like switching from group mostly BIOS boot to systemd UEFI only boot happened over like 3 versions. So it's production ready, or I would call it production ready. We run it in production for fairly big servers, but the config changes. So be prepared to read the update notes currently. The documentation itself, it covers a lot of use cases. There are how-tos, but it's not very searchable. The organization is kind of weird. And when you want to get a gripe of how all the parts fit together, the documentation needs some rework. And specific gotcha for metal servers. There's this special meta partition where you can store data that will live through Talos controller reset. One of the ways you can use Talos is that you will have Enferal nodes that have prepared the initial boot image on the drive with prepared meta partition that has some basic config, typically networking. So if you have any specific networking, bonding, multiple network interfaces, or anything like that, you can store it in meta, and it's independent from the machine config. So you can join the nodes to some clusters, then reset them, clean them, and keep your network access. Because as it doesn't have SSHs, it doesn't even have local terminal. If you shoot yourself in the foot and lost network, you have to wipe the machine and start over. There's no backdoor how to get there from a local terminal. And the metal config is not checked. It doesn't have for dry runs. You are directly writing data to that partition, and if you mistype, wipe the disk. So that's one of the gripes we have with bare metal. And as I said, do not break network access. But even with all those gotchas, I think you should try Talos Linux. It solves a lot of problems, and we are happy with it. That would be all from me. Any more questions?
Yeah. Yeah, we have more questions on Slido, so we can start. So I will just read it for you. So first, how to apply the config the secure way without the insecure flag?
I don't think it's possible the first time. After the first time, you will apply the secure way because you have set up the keys. I will find it. Here you don't have to have the insecure flag. It's only required the first time. I'm not sure if there is a way to set up it first time without auto provisioning. I would recommend you to do some. It has very many ways to do auto provisioning. In cloud, you can kind of hack your way through cloud init, where you can use the data, just paste the machine config, and it will set up it that way. Or you can pass kernel parameters with HTTPS. I think HTTP. I'm not sure if it validates certificates there. One other way, you can just prepare the disk image on special path, prepare the machine config, and again, during the first start, it will have the certificates, and it's secured that way. But if you are doing the easiest way, just boot up from the ISO. I don't think there is a way.
Okay, the next one. If a larger team manages the cluster, how do you keep, share, and distribute the sensitive pieces, like secrets and the cluster config of Talos config?
I think the same way as you do. And if I don't think I have any specific answer to this. It's the same with almost all of the systems. Secret management is hard. You need some other infrastructure to do it. You can do Git crypt, Vault, HashiCorp, but that's kind of out of scope of. I think we.
Do you use do you use sealed secrets or do you know vaults?
I don't think seal secrets work for this because those are for Kubernetes. I'm not sure how does our team. I think it's safe in some password manager.
I think we can discuss it later because there are more people from the company. So
Yeah, as I said, I don't do it in company. Me personally, I use Git crypt.
okay. Next one. Does it upgrade both control and data plane? Is there any blue-green strategy?
I'm not sure what's meant by data plane.
It's Kubernetes parts that you can upgrade the control plane and then the data
Yeah,
plane. I mean the
yeah.
worker nodes. So
Yeah, it can. I'm not sure how is the current support for AB. You can stage you can even upgrade just like start that one command upgrades only the API server. The other one you can do part by part. I'm not sure if you can do like part of the cluster with AB.
and the second barber, is there any blue-green strategy?
I'm not sure about it.
Probably not. Yeah.
Probably not.
I just saw it in some scalers. So I mean hyperscalers that when you can buy their managed cluster and there is something like that. But
I would recommend to have a second, almost the same cluster and test the upgrades there. My experience with trying to upgrade just parts of the clusters is usually everything breaks. So I wouldn't recommend it. It was
sure.
as if
Okay.
if everything.
Next one. What about cluster API? Is there support for Talos?
Talos works on cluster API controllers. I think they are currently in beta. We can. Okay, well maybe. Something's broken. They are working on it. I don't think it's quite fully stable yet, but they are working on their own controllers.
Okay. One. Is it possible to apply config part and just boot secure directly to something, not waiting to be initialized by someone, like using cloud init and so on?
Yes, as I answered before, this is possible, and it has many ways to support the config, because it supports many clouds and bare metal and very heterogeneous environments.
Okay. What if I want to provide developers access to SSH anyway to the VM?
You cannot. Like one of the common hacks with debugging something is running the privileged container with all your tools, but the SSH is kind of the anti-Christ of this.
Does it require a reboot? Does it require a reboot of the node after using some privileged SSH container or something like this?
I
Have to keep the node clean, the environment?
Well, the root file system is immutable. Even with privileged containers, you cannot modify them, so it doesn't require a reboot.
Okay. Did you test some other CNIs, Cilium, Contif, VPP? I think that you have it in the presentation. So.
On my personal side projects, I use Cilium. In our company, we currently are on the Flannel. I like Cilium. I am one of proponents of Cilium. And like eBPF.
And do you run it with clear version, like without kubeproxy and IP tables?
Yes, without kube. I run it without kubeproxy and IP tables. And
hey, you are smiling, but the hyperscalers say that they support the Selenium, but when you check it, you can see that there is still the kubeproxy and also the IP tables.
Yep.
So
here you can, even if you open one of the documentation is kinda complicated, but if we try to open their specific Cilium guide, and when you want without kubeproxy specific guide how to run it without kubeproxy. And just a note with that, with upgrading Cilium, follow every step very precisely do all the pre-flights or this will shoot you in the foot. And given that this doesn't have any escape hatches, if you if the network goes away, your whole cluster is gone.
Sure, perfect. I have last question on the Slido. So, what about local storage? No matter what do we think about it, can you use it and not want to commit seppuku?
Seppuku.
Seppuku?
Yeah, I understand. Yes, you can use it. I use it. Even if we in company use it. As I said, for data drives, you can even use something like ZFS or BTRFS. BTR. You understand me? You still can't use classic Linux MD, but you can provision multiple disks even with native Talos to have the mfl user data and use local provisioners.
Okay, it was last question on Slido. So, is there any question here from the audience? If not, I have the last one. I didn't see any mention about disk encryption. So how can I know secure?
It does support looks, LU. I don't know how to.
And also secure boot, like encrypting the boot partition, and with the TPM chip.
I am not sure about that because secure boot is quite a new feature for Talos. I think they added it like 2-3 versions ago. But when I was in the
don't worry, we have second speech, and he will be speaking about it. So not with the Talos, but
when I was
in general.
The
so
image factory, you can select if you want to have secure boot, and they have the whole procedure of pre-signed keys and how to sign the extensions. I didn't look that much into that. It's quite new, and I must say I am still afraid about secure boot.
Yeah, I get it.
They do have some support, not tested.
Okay, so thank you.